better than we were, but we're going to be talking about this market rollover. We're going to talk about where there's strength and weakness in the market. We're going to look at oil. We're going to look at VIX. We're going to be looking at that and much, much more. Is it over for the chips? This housing bill that hit, what does that mean? And much, much more. I've got Hans. I'm Mark Sebastian. It is time for State of the Market. Roll those credits, Amin. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends you're in Europe. I hope everybody's doing great. It is the State of the Market show. Today, we're going to be talking about the weird tech rollover from Monday and how it's behaving today, because there is something odd going on between chips and tech. We're going to be talking about what this sell-off in chips means and where it can take us. We're going to have our buddy Hans on to dig into that. He and I are, if we have time, we're going to dig into this new housing bill and what it could mean for the home builders. And, we've got even more to talk about. I would like to point you guys, one, if you're watching me on YouTube or X, good to see you guys. Give me that like and subscribe. Give me a heart. Better yet, shoot the team an email, support@optionpit.com, and join us live. Folks that are here with me live, I want to point your attention to the top corner here. I am going to be live with our very own Hannah Selner this Thursday at 4 p.m. I would love for you guys to join us. It's zero cost. We're going to be talking about new ways to trade with the changes in Pattern Day Trader. You're going to want to be there and check it all out. Once again, it's at the top of the chat here. The link is right there, pinned to the top. Get yourself registered. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there with me live. All right, as we kick off the show, the market has halved its losses. The S&P opened up down about 120. The Qs were down a little over 3%. And the Dow was down. Now you've seen the Dow, we're sitting on flat. The S&P 500, it's down less than 1%. You still have huge weakness in the triple Q. IWM, this is the Russell 2000. It's down as well, but again, less than the Qs, less than the S&P. We could see things get pulled a little bit higher here for a touch. But the real weakness is in memory. DRAM, this is the Roundhill Memory ETF. And this is your way of looking at the memory space as a whole. It's Micron, it's SanDisk, it's Samsung. Here, I'll literally, let me read you the list of who's in it. It's an interesting group. The top holdings, Micron, SK Hynix, which is South Korea, Samsung, Kioxia Holdings, SanDisk, Seagate, Western Digital. And then, some other ones that you probably aren't overly familiar with. But that's it. And Micron is 28%. And, the biggest U.S. holdings, Micron, SanDisk, and Seagate account for approximately 40% of the ETF. The rest are South Korea. South Korea getting kind of thwacked. But memory is causing problems. SMH down 5%. Folks, again, this ETF its top components add up to a market cap over $10 trillion, and it is moving at a clip of like 5% a day. You don't see that in a healthy environment. All right. And this is our now kind of second visit with selling in chips. We're going to talk to my friend Tim tomorrow, and he has a pattern that he trades around this type of parabolic movement. And he's going to tell us all about it tomorrow. But the DRAM names and chip names have become a real problem for the market, and it is absolutely crushing the QQQ. If you were in my wiretap service, we had a overnight 100% plus win in the SQQ because the writing was on the wall for what we're getting. 0DTE and trade to close. We're going to close bearish butterflies here momentarily. And game plan owned puts. And I'm looking through these closes, guys. We had a big close in Rip Zone. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities out here with this market moving the way it is. And you got to take advantage of it. Now, what was weird about yesterday's story, and then I want to bring on Hans, right? If you look at yesterday and I pull up AMD hit and closed at a new all-time high on Monday. Intel, new all-time high on Monday. At the same time, Google loses 2 AI executives and drops 6%. There was weakness in NVIDIA. Amazon, down. Meta. Microsoft. The only Mag 7 names that were up on Monday, Apple, which is a safe haven play, and Tesla, which is down today. Folks, we were feeding the chip beast our best and brightest on Monday. Really unusual, really strange price behavior. I mean, Google down, the AI king down, and AMD, Intel, and memory chips are blowing themselves higher. Google's got their own TPUs. Amazon, same story. One of the backbones of AI. Going to be a big winner out of it, and it's down big to feed the chip beast. Feeding that chip beast. Here to talk about the market dynamics and what's happening is OptionPit's head of income trading and our internal AI guru. He is Hans Albrecht. And, I really want to hear his take on this because they're throwing out everything good to feed this beast that requires sacrifice of your stocks. Hans, what I thought the behavior on Monday in particular was strange in what was being sold and what was being bought. What are you seeing in the MTI? What are you seeing in just how market forces are interacting with each other?
Yeah, Mark. I mean, this has been, I think we talk about this all the time. There's the stock market and then there's the reality. And we've seen really what really you can only say is a mania. So we've seen a mania, this DRAM ETF that you talked about, going from $100 million to 20 billion. It hit 20 billion in AUM. And so that's a lot of money piling into one area. Now, is it based on the reality of infinite compute? Well, of course, we've been talking about that for a year. But can the market overdo it at times? Well, that's probably the case, and we see that indeed. We've seen it sort of suck the oxygen out of everything else. And I think it's very interesting because we've sort of touched upon this a little bit lately, in that we see some big shifts happening out there. And I think evidence number one, a piece of evidence number one is Microsoft. And so Microsoft moving to these open source models, that doesn't necessarily mean less GPU demand, but what it means is maybe less margin capture for some of these foundation models. And so if we start to envision a world where some of these hyperscalers kind of say, well, I don't know, do we really need to spend all this money? And Microsoft's got a lot of money, and a lot of other companies are going to do the exact same thing. We see these models kind of converging in capability, and people are going to look for the cheapest one, right? You're going to look for the cheapest salt shaker on the shelf because it's going to be commoditized at some point, unless you really like the pink stuff, the Himalayan sea salt. Okay, someone's going to always want the Himalayan sea salt, but for the most part, people are going to want to just have salt. And I think that's the sort of direction that models are going in for the masses, right? For the general population, and even for Microsoft. And so I think that's going to put some pressure on the story right now. If we're shifting some of our interest over to Chinese models, open source models, I think it's going to make things terrible for OpenAI and Anthropic. They better IPO like tomorrow, because this is not a good direction for them. And in the semiconductor area, maybe we've seen a lot of pantry stuffing, right? So kind of like the COVID speak, everyone's sort of worried that they're not going to have enough memory. We hear Elon basically locking up a huge chunk of memory. And so everybody's saying, well, give me as much as you've got. And so the reality of people maybe over purchasing and pulling forward some of that demand is probably a reality at this point. And so I think what you're seeing is not that it's causing a big problem in the market. We're certainly not seeing a big sort of pullback, a big crash, but what we are seeing is more of the rotation into other things right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting day. When I pull up my different ETFs, here's how things look, Hans. You have biotech's up 1.5%, housing up marginally, materials down marginally, communications up marginally, energy flat, financials up marginally, industrials down 1%, technology XLK down over 2.5%, consumer staples up over 1%, utilities up 0.6%, healthcare up 1%, and then consumer staples only down about a 1/3%, and then you actually have retail up. So today is one of those days where, as you said, you're getting a nice rotation. They're buying, the Dow is now green, but the NASDAQ is down 2%. And it's all and chips have gotten so big within the triple Q, right? I mean, we've never seen one tiny sliver of a sector, right? We're not even talking about the chips themselves. Or we're not just talking about technology itself. We're talking about just chips making up a huge portion of the QQQ. NVIDIA, 8%. I'm not going to put Apple in. Apple makes their own chips, but I'm not going to put them in the chip group. Are you okay with that, Hans?
No, definitely not.
All right. So we've got NVIDIA at over 8%. Micron is now the third biggest component of the QQQ. It's almost 6%. AMD is 3.8%. Intel is 3%. Broadcom is 3%. Um, just those names together, you're talking about close to 20% of the entire ETF, not just tech, chips. What does that what and that doesn't even include the ancillary players, Google with their TPUs, Amazon with their chips, Apple with their chips. I'm not even using those guys.
Yeah,
I mean, what?
and that's the well, that's exactly it, Mark. This isn't the Nvidia show anymore. It's every hyperscale. A lot of hyperscalers are working on their own custom silicon. They've got GPU. Google's got the TPUs. Amazon Trainium. Even Microsoft's got one of them, and Meta. I mean, there's a lot of competition here, and so the monopoly isn't there. And so it doesn't mean that the underlying trend is wrong and that the AI story is wrong as it pertains to semiconductors. It just means that area may get a little bit challenged. And the natural idea, and I didn't mention number two, which is SpaceX, which is we see SpaceX taking on more compute business. What does that mean,
Yeah,
right? If they're starting to do things, and Elon, he doesn't give a crap about profits generally. He's going to want to basically drive compute costs down to zero and make it available to everyone. I believe he actually kind of wants to create value for the world and for parts of the world that can't access things. I don't think he cares about profits. That's deflationary for a lot of what happens in AI. So if he's pulling business away from maybe the neo cloud stocks and things like that over time, that's just going to be, pressure on the sort of build part of it, a build part of the AI story. And I think that's why you're seeing money shift into, well, who's going to win? You and I have been talking about IWM for the last $100. It's up
yeah,
50% since we said, listen, the beneficiaries of AI, who gets to benefit from this? Who gets to benefit from Anthropic charging $200 for somebody to use $5,000 in tokens? How's that a great
yeah.
business for them? No, it's a great business for the end user. And so we see the shift going into, well, who's going to benefit from all this wonderful AI in their pocket? And I think that's a reasonable shift at this point.
So, I'm sitting here at home, right? I just watched, I own chip names, things like that. I've been in Intel, I've been in AMD, I own Nvidia. I've got a Big Mag 7 exposure, right? I just watched the market open up down 120 points. I watched the NASDAQ open down over 3%. Now I'm watching the Dow turn green and those losses get cut in half. What is like one actionable step that everybody here listening, everybody here in the option pit room, over on YouTube, over on X, what's an actionable thing someone could do right now to take advantage of the price action we're moving? Or is that action, hold your stocks but buy SQQ or buy SOXS? What is something somebody can do right now, Hans?
Well, I think betting against the semiconductors has been a tough trade, right? There hasn't been a lot of money to be made there. So
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
but
yes.
right. I think that's a Captain Obvious thing to say. And they're not expensive. Micron, I said at 350, is trading at like 7 times 2028 earnings. Well, it's still not that expensive. But what happens if the pantry has been stuffed and the narrative changes, right? So that sort of argument can only last so long. So I think that's kind of a tricky place to be. And I like the shift. I don't think this is a market where you get the crash. I think it's a market where you get the rotation. And I don't think it's I don't think it's a coincidence that we're seeing Microsoft up a little bit, Meta up a little bit, Google still struggling a bit, but who benefits from cheaper compute, more accessible compute? Jevons paradox: when compute gets cheaper, there's just going to be more demand for it. Who's going to
Yeah.
benefit from that? People who create the ecosystem. So, do I want to bet on Micron, that is a hell of a one-trick pony and has benefited from pricing power, or do I want to bet on a Microsoft or a Google that has this incredible system that's going to deliver that value to the end user that they're going to use in their personal lives, in their businesses? That to me is a much more interesting place to be. So I would be interested in Google in particular. The other area is, I believe, the equipment. So you mentioned Apple. I think Apple and Dell. Well, who's going to benefit from cheaper compute and everybody wanting to get on board? Well, it's going to be businesses saying, listen, especially since they can use open source and they can actually have siloed AI. I think that's going to be a thing over time. I think people are going to say, listen, with the agentic swarm and all the threats out there and all the cyber crime and threats, I think I want to have AI inside the walls here, and you're going to be able to do that quite easily. But you need the equipment for that. So I think Dell is one of my very, very favorite stocks, even after a pretty good run.
So there you have it. He likes Dell. And Hans, I like your Google play here. It has now closed its gap from here. I'll switch to Hannah. I'm switching to TradingView, so you don't have to look at LiveVol's charts. It has now closed the gap from those marvelous earnings that they had in at the end of April. And, looking at Lisa's pitchfork, it is bouncing off. What do you know? One of her deviation lines. So, I would you be looking to buy the stock, or would you be looking to sell a put spread down here? Is it time to bet on Google not going down, or is it time to bet on Google going up?
I think it's time to bet on stability coming into Google. We have some fairly high option pricing that's kind of pushed up a little bit into this recent little pullback. And I think that's the play. My MTI is showing a bit of red now. It's been yellow for a good portion of the last few weeks. So it's been telling you, listen, don't get aggressive to the upside on this thing. You want to sort of play safe. And right now I would be playing, to your point, the sort of taking advantage of the fear that's come into this market right now, because I don't think it's a breakaway move up kind of market. I think it's hey, let's take advantage of uncertainty. And there's a way we do that. We monetize that with our income trades.
So there you go, guys. Google, great setup for an income play. How do you get access to an income play? Trade with Hans. If you've got interest, give the team a call, 888-872-3301. We brought him here for income plays for a reason. He's the only man I've ever met that could do it and not lose his shirt once a quarter. And that's what brought us in. Folks, we are running up against it as we close out the show. S&P now 74.16, down about 0.75%. Dow flipping positive. Q still down 2.25. I think it's going to be one of those markets. The Qs will not be turning green today. But I think you could see some of the names, the Googles, the Amazons, see some people start pecking around, maybe even a Microsoft, which has been under so much pressure. You could see some of those names get some birds pecking at them, see if there's some opportunities to accumulate down here. So, do I think there's a comeuppance coming on the chip sector at a certain point? Yeah, but I think that's August time frame seems like when we're gonna be back there. Folks, I want you to make sure you join me tomorrow. You just got some really meaty, great in-depth analysis from Hans and myself today on what's going on with chips and why. Tomorrow we're going to be having Tim Colby on, and he's going to explain exactly when we know it's time to get the heck out of Dodge in a chip play. So you're going to definitely want to make sure you join us live tomorrow. It's going to be really fun, as it is every day.
Mark.
So, yeah.
Mark, let me leave you guys with one last thing, because I want to give all the viewers something to watch. It's always good to have that sort of point, that sort of landmark. Tomorrow we get Micron earnings. So I don't think semiconductors fall apart completely today, because we know those earnings are going to be terrific. But this kind of reminds me of a couple of NVIDIA reports ago where we had this great result and they hammered it. So I want to look for the reaction. If we do not get an overly positive reaction from the Micron earnings, then I think you can probably call at least an intermediate term top on the sector. And I'd be looking at some downside plays in that area. So that's going to be the big tell tomorrow night after the close. Look for the reaction.
Absolutely. There you have it, folks. Micron Tech tomorrow after the bell. We're going to be watching that stock for sure here at Option Pit. And make sure you join me and Hannah Thursday at 4 p.m. And we're going to go through some new techniques for trading pattern day traders. So make sure to come and check us out. Hans, thanks again for being here. So for Hans Albrecht, our head of income trading and not certified AI expert here at Option Pit, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Thank you for being here. And as always, thank you, Amin. Thanks, Amin.